Okay, we're starting live. Here we go, Monarch. What I'm doing right now is this is my first time setting it up myself. Welcome, welcome. Here we go. Welcome, everybody. I'm starting a little bit early because I'm setting up the Hangout myself because our social media manager is having had a baby. Okay, here we go. Figured it out. So what I'm doing, hello everybody, hello. Getting it ready on myself. Here we go, gotta put this here. Bam. Update. Let's see. Good to see you, Lynn. Hope all is well. Back at home. Lynn was on the retreat. I'm just setting the Hangout up right now. We're almost done. I started a little bit early. Here we go. Refresh. Should be live right here. There I am. Okay. Beautiful. Oh, that's good. So someone said I look bright and fresh, so I'm just gonna leave the phone exactly where it is. I'm not gonna fix anything. I'm just getting Instagram Live set up. I started a little bit early. Crystal Strayer, who is our social media manager, just had a baby. And so I'm setting everything up right now. That's why I'm starting a little bit earlier. I'm almost done. Of course, that's happening. Okay. And then we need to start a live video here. Not that one. Live. And there we go. Okay, welcome everybody. This is Matt Monarch with the rawfoodworld.com. Rockin' the house. The topic today is how to persevere. That's the topic today. I'm supposed to start in 1 minute, so I'm just gonna chit chat with everybody. My hair looks amazing, thank you. It's because I washed it today. I'm trying to be presentable again because last week I wasn't shaved, my hair was not, and everybody said rude things to me, so I'm like, look, I can clean up nice, all right? So that's what I did. Even wore a black button-down shirt because of my insecurities there. All right, so welcome everybody. We are gonna be talking about how to persevere today. We're just waiting another minute before the official start time. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask them and we can start talking. How to persevere is today's topic. I've been doing some crazy research actually that has the potential to change how we look at nutrition. It all started when I was coming out with this whole complete protein thing last week, when I was telling everybody about complete protein and how the whole difference between raw food protein versus meat and things like this. And it's a very controversial topic, and a lot of people came at me. And so, some people had some good points, so I researched everything really heavily, and I've stumbled across some things that are mind-blowing. And I'm gonna bring it out. I think next week we're gonna talk about the complete protein myth. And then the week after that, we're gonna talk about other nutrition things in regards to this. It's going to be crazy. It might even change the way we look at vitamins, which is a multi-billion-dollar industry, by the way. Someone saying they wish I could do a documentary on the raw life. That's like a lot of work. And then I do so much as it is already. I'd have to, maybe I will. It's a good idea because there's actually some interesting things I'm running into. Someone says, I'd love to hear your take on eggs, why you don't eat them but like them for your kids. Okay, so my kids are growing girls, and I'm not gonna I think that it's very important that, well, I think it's important for everybody to be drinking vegetable juice. But to get kids to drink vegetable juices consistently, because they would need to drink, a young child, probably 8 ounces minimum per day, and I don't want to shove things down their throat in order to succeed to get all the nutrition that you really need. It's kind of interesting because after this research that I've been doing, my brain's actually being rewired and reworked in regards to all this. I'm actually becoming, I've always talked about, I'm always very open to other dietary lifestyles, and I think many people could succeed on many things. But as I'm getting into this, I'm really beginning to see the true benefits of eating live foods, especially vegetable juices. This is and micronutrient foods to rebuild. This is where I'm coming at. It's living elements. It's almost like, I could go into it a little bit right now, and then this will be based on what I'm going to be sharing in next week's article. Next week's theme is probably going to be the complete protein myth. So if you start to look at amino acids, vitamins, and things like this, amino acids, when you break them down, they break up into atoms and molecules. And I started because of these people who were combating me about this complete protein thing, I started researching all of the makeups of every amino acid in their atomic structure. And all of them, except for 4, only consists of 4 atoms in different patterns. And that was hydrogen, carbon, oxygen, and nitrogen. And then 2 of them had iodide or something like that, and the other 2 of them had sulfur. And so what happens when you eat a complete protein, everybody thinks it has all the amino acids, so the body's going to utilize it, and that's why you need meat or whatever the case is. But this is a false thing I'm convinced of. And so what happens is, this is how nutrition works. You eat the protein, whether it's animal protein or something else. Simba, I'm talking to 1,000 people. If you put your butt in my face, I'm going to be really pissed off. Sorry, guys. Just have You eat the animal protein, which are complete protein supposedly. Your digestive system, you chew it up, you turn it into chyme, you break it down into the body, and once it hits the small intestines, it takes all of the atoms and molecules it possibly can and brings it to the liver. And the liver reassembles all these small molecular components, atoms, and then creates what the body needs at that time. Now, yes, we need certain nutrition, we need certain atoms and things like this. The thing is, the more intense the digestive process has to work in order to get those elements, there's more to this besides this, elements, the more chaos it creates in the body. For example, when you eat animal protein, a byproduct is uric acid and other acids, which are not necessarily good for the human body. It can actually result into issues in the long run. It's bad for the kidneys, can cause kidney stones, and then can saturate in the muscles. The muscles absorb it like a sponge. And so these elements, the atoms and molecules, like when you eat concentrated starches, you're going to get the smallest. See, people don't look at the atom molecular structure when they're looking at but that's what the liver does. It takes the atoms and molecules and reassembles it and creates what it needs. Even vitamins are made up of these atoms. And so when you're eating harmful foods, you could do animal protein in small quantities, but if you overdo it, there's going to be a lot of the byproduct of uric acid. When you eat concentrated starches, the same deal. So the body reassembles, the liver will take all these elements and reassemble it. So you want to have a proper functioning liver too, which is very important. So when you eat, okay, so on top of this, add these atoms and molecules that the body takes in order to reassemble and turn into protein, collagen, and making our cells beautiful and stuff like this. These elements need to be alive for our cells to magnetically take them and to be useful. So if you're eating cooked meat, not only are you causing these issues, but these atoms on a molecular level are not really vibrational and magnetic, and they're not going to really be accepted by your cells as if you were to eat living foods. Now, living foods consist of, this is going to get really good. So when you eat, okay, so minerals, the mineral kingdom is kind of like dead. It's like the soil. And what plant life does is it takes this disintegrated mineral stuff and brings it to life, brings these elements to life within the plant structure. So these atoms and molecules become alive now. And when they're alive through the vegetable kingdom, then the cells can accept them in a very easy way. And at the same time, the body isn't worked extra hard creating byproducts which are harmful to the human body. And the beauty about this is there's a secret, which is vegetable juices and micronutrient foods. Now, I studied all of the amino acids and their breakdown all the way down to the atomic level. We're talking carbon, hydrogen. This is what I was studying. And I was saying that almond butter has just as much protein as grass-fed beef, but then the complaint is that it's not a complete protein. So I studied all of these different elements. And we want to give the liver what it needs to build amino acids, which are the alive organic atoms, carbon, hydrogen, in high quantities to where it can take that. And there was one raw food amongst them all that would appease, there's 23 amino acids, all of them but 2. And it wasn't even almond butter. What it was this is interesting, carrot juice. So when you take, this is why carrot juice is so good. It's it has the perfect, I'm actually drinking crazy amounts of carrot juice again. Not crazy amounts, but I'm back to, right now I'm at 16 ounces a day with some beet juice, which I've never done. Beet juice for me has been a game changer. I was having really big issues when I was first drinking the beet juice. I still am a little bit, but it cleared my liver. I think I feel more focused, more deeper breathing. It's functioning more optimally. So, Simba, no, I'm talking. You have to go. Go. Look, I'm not a cat butt person. There you go. Okay. Okay, so I think you guys are with me here. So one of the reasons why people think you need meat is because meat can actually make your muscles bigger than carrot juice and almond butter. If you were to eat carrot juice and almond butter, you can get all the amino acids that you need. There's one in there that you would need help with, that out of the 23, because it has a sulfur component. So you can get that through anything that you could get that through MSM. You can get that through cabbage, a little bit of cabbage juice. You can get that through Brussels sprouts, all sorts of things. So I researched, like, okay, so why is it that a person builds more muscle mass when they eat meat, if this whole protein concept is bigger than I thought, is correct, and when you eat raw plant-based foods, I'm supposed to be talking about perseverance here, but I'm just so excited about this research. This is supposed to be next week's hangout, guys. And I'm still not done researching. And why someone on a plant-based diet, you know, we get muscle, it's more like a Bruce Lee versus an Arnold Schwarzenegger. You know what I'm talking about? Look. And so I started researching deeply into that, and I discovered that there's something called purines in animal protein, in meat, and ironically, eggs, the one cooked food that I would recommend for people if they can't handle a 100% raw food diet, has low purines. I think that's how you pronounce it. I have to look a little bit more. This is all new to me. I just have been researching this. And fish has it too. These items, this purine is high in nitrogen. And nitrogen balance is critical for muscle growth when you're working out. Steroids that people take, I was researching this too, like how do steroids work in order to make someone so big? They work because of one reason why they work. There was a few reasons. I still have to do research on this, so I'm going to have everything by this weekend. Is it creates a positive nitrogen balance, because they say nitrogen is what builds up muscle, but these purines, the end byproduct is uric acid after it's utilized in things like this, which is very harmful to the human body, these muscle builders. Okay, so check this out. When I was younger, 18 years old, I was doing crazy amounts of weightlifting. I was insecure at 18 because I was prepubescent, because I never ate animal protein for the first 10 years of my life. And so I was insecure, I needed to be buff. I seriously worked out 5 to 6 times a week. There was one point where I got to the point where I was benching over 300 pounds. And there were days where I would literally go to In-N-Out Burger for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, having 2 double-doubles a day, which would be 4 hamburger patties for every meal. So that'd be 12 hamburger patties in one day. I ate 12 hamburger patties in one day, many days in a row, in order to build up muscle mass. Now, I was heavily into lifting weights, but there were guys who were at the gym with me. I mean, I was big, you know, but there were guys that were really big, and I was doing everything that I needed to do in order to become big. So I came to the conclusion that they were on steroids. So what I'm saying, I guess the point of this is animal products aren't going to make you big like these guys that are like really big. I was benching 300 pounds and I couldn't do that multiple times a week, eating 12 hamburger patties a day. If anybody was going to do it in a natural, non-steroid way, it was going to be me. But it didn't happen. I looked good, don't get me wrong. I mean, besides all my pasty face without my skin wasn't looking good because I wasn't getting much nutrition. But I was, you know, you don't get that big. So what I'm saying here is the nitrogen aspect, and I have to do more research on this, is a reason why the animal protein gives a person more muscle mass than on a raw food or a vegan diet. But the issue is, in the long run, you're going to run into some issues because the byproduct is uric acid in high quantities. So, on a side note, the best way to get, for those of you that are tuning in, I've come across like a mind-blowing revelation here, which I'm going to share in my newsletter. Go to therawfoodworld.com, join my newsletter list if you want to be part of this. I'm going to be putting an article out, this could be the theme of next week, to where it's the molecular level where the nourishment really goes down. The atoms, the carbon, the hydrogen, the nitrogen, the oxygen, and many other ones. But all the amino acids are composed of those 4 in different patterns, except for 4 of the 23, where 2 of them have a couple of other things, iodine and sulfur. So, and these elements, nitrogen, they need to be alive. Like we were just, if you're tuning in now, you're gonna have to rewatch this. They need to be alive. So the way to bypass this, and all of these products foods that we're eating, such as animal meat, concentrated starches, to get these things, it will break it down to even though they're not even alive, they'll break it down into the atoms and elements to where they're at, but the byproducts that are being created in the process disintegrate the human body on some level. In small quantities, you'll be fine because the body can process that. But the way most people eat today, that's not the case. So, the best way to get these atoms is through micronutrients, through vegetable juices and micronutrient foods. This is getting nitrogen. You're just pretty much shooting all the elements the human body needs on a molecular level straight into your system. The body digestive system doesn't get taxed. So since it doesn't get taxed, there's no byproducts that are going to harm you. And the nourishment just goes straight into the system, just gets soaked right up into the small intestines, goes straight to the liver to be reassembled. It has an abundance of all of these elements to create whatever it needs to create. Now, if you want to be insecure like I was when I was building weight, because, girls worry about being overweight, and then guys worry about being not muscular. I was mental for many years. If you want to be healthy and you don't want to eat those things, you might not have that muscle mass, but your protein levels, amino acids are handled. Your muscles are going to be strong as hell. Sorry. Your collagen, you're going to have all the elements you need to build up collagen, to rebuild skin, hair, tissue, nails, all these things. Everything will be handled because you're throwing in an overabundance of elements. And this also goes for vitamins. I'm not going to jump into this. It's going to be like 3 weeks from now, because I really have to do more research before I have everybody attacking me on this, but this is insane. I said you can't get fat-soluble vitamins on a raw food diet in the past. I've completely changed my mind. Anyway, so the reason why the raw food eater doesn't build as much muscle mass is because the healthy protein foods are lacking purines, which is loaded with nitrogen, which is actually one of the reasons why people become really buff and strong and muscular looking, However, the byproduct of these purines is uric acid, and the muscles soak that up. And once the resaturation point, you're going to form these tiny little crystals that are going to cause issues like rheumatism, sciatica, many other things, neuritis in the long run, and other muscle ailments. So when you're eating the raw plant-based protein foods, these purines are very low or absent completely. So you're not going to get the muscular look. I think I look pretty good. No, I'm just kidding. Trust me, you don't need to be like freaking Arnold Schwarzenegger for someone to like you. It's like, if you just do the exercise, you look good. But what I'm saying is, you're going to get all the nutrition. Just because you don't get all rocked out buff, you're still going to get all the nutrition that you need. More nutrition, because the food is alive. It's like has that magnetic component. I'm going to have all the details on all of that. Everything gets utilized. And one of the reasons why the body is so resilient, a person can go without nourishment for so long because there's thousands and thousands, trillions of cells and blood corpuscles and so many different things. It's just very, there's just a difference between a person might look pasty, they might have a big body, but they're not getting that nourishment. So there's nothing wrong in eating cooked foods or meat or anything like that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you want to be drinking vegetable juices as much as you can per day, and micronutrient foods, which we'll talk about in the next few weeks. I've always talked about certain micronutrient foods. Because nature is the vegetable kingdom, and nature is what brings dead matter, like the mineral kingdom, to life through its plant structure. And now we've got the alive elements, the atoms, the nitrogen, the carbon, the hydrogen, everything, all the vitamins, everything that we need, that the liver needs in order to reassemble it and create the human body. These live elements to furnish the cells with this life force. So, this is big. This is big, and I'm getting all the details down. I'm breaking everything down. The amino acids I'm breaking down. The vitamins are breaking down to their molecular state. The vitamin industry is a multi-million-dollar company. Industry, I mean. And what we got here is something pretty big. Pretty darn big. You have to think about this from giving the body living elements, number one, and how the body is taxed when you're eating foods. What taxes the body to create byproducts that disintegrates the body on some level in the long run. So this is where I'm headed with this, and I'll be sharing all of this very soon. Okay, let's read some questions. Okay. So now people are saying I'm looking good. Last week they said I didn't look good because I didn't shave and stuff like that. Okay. Is it possible to build muscle mass from scratch using your raw diet? My raw diet. Beet is awesome. As a runner, I find my recovery is optimized by drinking beet juice, green juice. Beet juice just cleanses the liver. The liver needs to be cleansed because I'm in Ecuador. Because that's the processing center for all this nutrition. It's time to eat healthy, regardless. Okay, whoops. Okay, so here, let's go back. What was that question that I just was asked? Here it is, let's see. Is it possible to muscle mass from scratch using your raw diet? What is muscle mass? Are you talking about the muscle mass that the magazines are you just trying to be is your goal to be healthy or to be big? It's kind of like for a woman, the magazines show women they're like a stick, and then Photoshop comes in and makes them even more like a stick, and then all the women are trying to reach that. So then there's men who do steroids, there's men who do all sorts of things to look good in magazines and things like this, and men are insecure just as much as women with being too skinny and not having enough muscular mass. But all you really have to do is work out, and the goal is to be healthy and supply the body with the nutrition that it needs in order to thrive and rebuild. But if you're and it goes, this whole insecurity thing is a little out of control here. Okay. Last week, a couple weeks ago, we were doing the contest winners for this retreat, and I was telling a story to everybody that on Facebook, someone asked me, one of my posts went viral, is this the guy who was sexually harassing women? And I'm like, no, that's not me, because there's some raw gurus out there right now that have been, supposedly have been doing this type of thing with their teaching abilities and stuff like this. And I was saying, if anybody's going to be taken advantage of, it's me. I suck with women. I've had so much pain and suffering when it comes to women in my life. It's out of control. I don't know what I'm doing in that arena, whatever. So just keep that. Number one is that was not me, just because I'm the raw food guy, and then there's other raw food guys who do that. They said, is this the guy? No. No. Anyway, there have been many times where, I thought I was a good-looking guy or something, but then, the woman always goes for the other guy who is overweight or this or that, and I'm just I don't understand. So what I'm saying is, Like, it's not about the looks on some level. And it's like, if you work out, regardless of what you eat, you're gonna have muscle mass. I have muscle mass. I do yoga freaking 5 times a week. I don't have muscle mass like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but it'd be more like, I mean, I wouldn't say Bruce Lee either, but I'm just doing the comparison, you know what I'm saying? So yes, it comes, but it's just it's clean. It's like, put it this way, I would guarantee that the woman would prefer to smell my breath versus the one who's buffed up on animal protein or other processed foods. Like, it's like, everything's very clean. It's lean muscle. It's like, it's purity. It's like, it's awesome. So the reason why this whole entire muscle mass thing is so important is because of insecurity. That's what it all comes down to. Men are insecure about muscle mass. And that's what's screwing them up. And me too, you know, I'm in that arena. I've run into injuries because I was so insecure I couldn't stop working out when I got injured, and it got even worse and stuff like that. I was craziest of the crazy. Okay, let's see. Someone's asking to see my bicep. My mom says hello. She's watching. What's up, Delene? Raw vegan for 5 years. Okay. Okay, so that was like a little tangent that I wasn't expecting to go into. That's next week's information. And then that's going to probably be like a 2 to 3 week series of information. I'm still doing research on it. If you're not on our newsletter list, we're about to get into Perseverance now. If you're not on our newsletter list, go to therawfoodworld.com and join, because I do articles every week, promotions. Just reading a question. Okay. So, now that we've gotten into my entire whole concept on, what do you call it, protein and nutrition, now we're going to get into perseverance. Most of you, I'm drinking water instead of cucumber juice today. There's a reason for that. I'm experimenting, number one. I've been drinking beet juice every day, which cleanses the liver, and crazy detox has been happening to me. And so someone was telling me if I drink water, I could help transport it out, while the juices might not do something like that. I'm experimenting with that, I'm not sure. But also, I ate lunch late today, so my food hasn't digested, and I feel like water is a good thing versus a food juice that would... Anyways. Here we go. So, perseverance. Now, over the last months, I've done a lot of articles, and we've talked about willpower. Now, willpower gives us that, it's like a spark of energy that gets us to take action through, like, nothing can stop you. It's just like willpower. For example, if somebody wants to improve their dietary lifestyle, if they've got willpower, they can do it without a problem. And we talked about willpower in many different aspects. If you can have willpower in order to succeed at something like this, most people don't have willpower. So when a person, got a burp, improves their dietary lifestyle, the result ends up in discomfort, pain and suffering on a physical, emotional, and spiritual level. And all three levels are treacherous. Number one, you're going to go through the withdrawals. You're going to have the cravings. The emotional issues are going to come to the forefront. Number one reason why this happens is because when you stop intaking the foods that you normally eat and you're eating less, it's almost like fasting on some level. Or it's almost like you're not indulging. You're not partaking in a desire, in something that is not ideal for the human body. This could come across in many different ways. Like it doesn't even have to be food. If you can stop, like maybe you play video games all the time and you know that you should be doing something else. And if you have to stop that, you're going to be sitting there. Or maybe you watch porn or whatever it is. If you stop partaking in these types of things, then you're left with like excess energy, which is actually more spiritual energy and good, but there's a lot of emotional issues there and we can't really handle it. So when you improve your dietary lifestyle, these emotional issues kind of like rise to the surface. And here you are in the midst of it, and it's treacherous. It's almost like you just want to give your excess energy away or whatever's going on there. And more spiritual energy, when people want more spiritual energy, we say we want more life and more spiritual energy, but when you get it, you also get the good stuff, the good feelings, but also you experience all the suffering feelings at the same time. And if you don't know how to handle that type of thing, you're just gonna not want that excess energy, and you're just gonna be where you always are. So when we improve our dietary lifestyle, or quit smoking cigarettes, or stop watching porn, or whatever, all of these different things, all of a sudden we're hit with this excess energy because we're stopping these habits. And what happens is most people aren't able to handle this type of suffering, this type of emotional discomfort, along with the physical withdrawals, so they don't even bother. They don't even want to hit that point of suffering. And it's willpower that can enable you to endure through that. Now, since my guess is 90% of Americans and people from first world countries can't do that, or don't even want to do that, if you can improve your dietary lifestyle or make changes in all of these habits that we have and go through the suffering and get through that, you're like way ahead of the curve. That's like having willpower. When you go out with your friends, you're going to look the youngest your age, you're going to have the smile, you're going to have more focus and more energy with everybody there. You're going to be stared upon more than everybody there. And it's pretty much all you have to do is control it. Physically, it's easy. You just don't put things in your mouth. So the first step is not to put these harmful foods in your mouth. And then if you can endure through that, the pain and suffering that comes along with that, then you're way ahead of the curve automatically. So people hear this and they're like, it's just so logical. And think about it. We all live 24 hours a day, and we all experiencing, and we only have one life. We don't know about how many life. We live, I'm going to be Monarch for the next 100 years or whatever, or however, 80, whatever I'm going to be. 80 years. And in every hour and every moment, what's the difference of what I experience on a spiritual level? Do I want everything to be easy in every single moment during my time? Or am I excited to make a dent and to experience a high intensity of spiritual intensity on an ongoing basis? From the outside, nobody sees anything of what I'm going through or what you're going through or anybody's going through. So why not have an intense life on the inside on an ongoing basis versus being kind of like... So I'm all for it. Logically, I bring anything on that I possibly can in every single moment in time. So if you can control what you put in your mouth and then endure through that, you're way ahead of the curve. And what generally happens is you hear all of this information and it might actually create a spark in you. You might be like, it is logical. All I have to do is control what I put in my mouth and just go through that suffering, and then I'm like way ahead of curve compared to 90% of the people. I'm going to have more focus, more energy, more beauty, more than anybody else around me. I should just do this. That spark that you have is willpower. And you might try it for 2 weeks. And then you go, and then all of a sudden, the reality of it comes into play. You go through the withdrawals. You go through the cravings. This emotional and spiritual suffering comes into play. And remember, that's good, because I want intensity through my life. But then, at this point, we fall off the wagon. That's willpower. Perseverance is long-term willpower. Perseverance is going to keep you going in the midst of those 2 weeks when the suffering occurs. Persevere, like you just keep going, and then you become blinded, you become confused. This can't be healthy for me. People come up with excuses. It's almost like consciousness is so fragile. We talk about foreign thoughts, all these different things. You're like, this isn't healthy for me, and then you go back to fast food. And then you say to everybody, oh, it wasn't a healthy diet. You make up excuses for yourself. But if that's the case, why are you eating fast food? Why don't you just try a different healthy diet instead of McDonald's? So perseverance is kind of what keeps us going through everything in the midst of all that. So this is where it gets pretty interesting. When you get to the point of where you have created this suffering from improving dietary lifestyles or eliminating all these things that we were talking about earlier, you're in the midst of that emotional, spiritual cravings, physical withdrawals is happening at this moment in time. And you literally want to do this, but you can't control yourself. Now, if you eat during this moment in time, you're fine as long as you do 2 things. You're persevering if, number 1, you don't go into guilt. If you go into guilt for a second and you're in this guilt loop, you have to pull out of it. And number 2 is if you start right back up again. You are succeeding when you fail if you, 1, don't go into guilt, and 2, start right back up again. Guilt is useless if you start looping that nonstop in your head, and you witness that you're stuck, and you just let it continue to go because you ate something as if you killed somebody. Then what this is doing is draining your energy. And if this is draining your energy, it gives you a less possible chance of starting right back up again because you don't have the strength in order to do that. Guilt just drains your energy. And if you're in guilt, it's okay as long as you're detached from it. It's almost like you're fighting it. As long as you're in that battle, you're not getting your energy drained, which is also uncomfortable. So when you find yourself in guilt, you got to stop at that moment and then fight to get out of it. It's like when we talked about judging. If you find yourself judging in every single moment when you're judging, you want to, in every moment, try not to judge. And when you give up, you're judging or you're feeling guilty. This is when you're kind of like, so that's what's happening there. And then you just have to start right back up again. And one reason why this is a success is because you actually got to the point where you couldn't control yourself. You got to the point where all of this crazy, intense energy came upon you, which nobody is willing to do. You actually made these improvements to get to this point of where you lost control. Nobody's willing to do that, so that's a huge success, number 1. But number 2, what you want to do in these moments where you can't control yourself, when you're about to drink that sip of coffee, when you're about to take that puff of a cigarette, when you're about to eat that Twinkie or harmful processed food, if you're going to do that, that's fine, but pay attention. Try to understand what is happening in these moments. Maybe you're feeling weakness and despair, which is just throwing you onto the ground. Like you're not wanting to do this, but you have complete weakness and despair. You're going through withdrawals, through cravings, you're ready to cry, there's all these emotional issues, and all you want to do is take this food or cigarette just to stop this intensity. But look at the intensity. in and out. Like, look at it. Say, look, okay, I'm about to eat this. Let's look at the intensity that's getting me to eat this. This intensity is controlling you and getting you to take this food and eat it because you can't endure the suffering and pain. And so then what you do in this moment in time is you look at it all in every angle, what you're feeling, what you're thinking, every last aspect. And then you eat the food, you feel better, the energy subsides, whatever, you're doing good. And then you think to yourself like, okay, this is actually exciting. I actually went through that. I saw the intensity, I found intensity it is. I want to do it again. I want to get to the point where the intensity is so heavy and strong to where I want to see if I can endure for longer. So that's when you start right back up again, right after your failure. And so you learned in that process. And then the next time that comes around to where you lose control, maybe you can endure longer. And then you realize, wait, that energy is not too bad actually. This is actually kind of fun. I actually have more energy. More spiritual energy is the good and the bad at the same time. We want more spiritual energy. We have to understand both. And then you keep doing it for all these loops. You start right back up again to where you can endure more and more, longer and longer, till you get to the point where you've built up enough spiritual strength, till you get to the point where you can endure this suffering if you needed to forever. It's actually not that bad. And then you become stronger and it becomes actually nothing. The effort actually becomes effortless now. And now once you get to this point of being able to endure that forever, you have now complete control of what you put in your mouth. You have more spiritual freedom. You have more life. You have more control over your body, your mind, and your soul. This is like better than any worldly treasure that you can possibly imagine. So these failures are not necessarily failures, but successes. Okay. So let's go a little bit deeper into this whole entire thing of helping you through these moments of weakness and despair. So here you are at this point of stopping eliminating harmful foods, and you get to the point where you can't control yourself, or maybe you're doing some other things. Maybe you're not playing the video game when you know you should be doing something better. Maybe all these other things. And it's a lonely night at home. You're all by yourself, and the intensity is just right there. Like, it's intense. You want to get rid of this energy because of the intensity, but that's just like blowing it, throwing it away. So this is the moment where we generally fail. So what we want to do at this moment is simply be. And it can be extremely this is like the difficult part right here. You're home at night and this intensity is built up. You just want to be. Maybe you have to just get into a ball, curl up in a ball, and lie on the couch as you just sit there being. This is like you're sitting there going through this intensity. You're getting to know yourself better. It's like peace. It's purity. It's building up strength, endurance, understanding. And then maybe what you'd want to do is watch a movie. So you can, like, you know, watch a movie, have your focus and attention on one single object, which is watching the movie. And then on the spiritual level, you're kind of enduring, understanding, working. We're like working on a conscious, unconscious level at the same time while this is all going on. And if you can make it to the point where, if you can make it to the point where you can actually get to sleep, then you're going to start off to a new day. And then the next morning, you might realize that that night before wasn't really too bad. And you might actually be excited getting to know yourself more and these other things, and getting to that point of like, this intensity and be excited about this, becoming stronger, being able to be alone, all of these different things on an ongoing basis. These are just like, this is how to persevere. This is kind of like the logical, methodical approach on how to succeed like this. And there's no failures here as long as you don't go into guilt and you start right back up with this mission in mind. So when you're in the midst of weakness and despair, taking that Twinkie, taking that cigarette, taking that sip of coffee doesn't eliminate the emotional issues. So what happens here is, these emotional issues are kind of like embedded in our system in different areas and things like this. And the key is they kind of surface and become chaos when we're making improvements like this, trying to kind of like hold us back from actually succeeding. And so what we want to be what happens is when you eat the food or do the habit that you're not happy about, the cigarette smoking, alcohol, whatever it is, these emotional issues, you don't feel them, but what they do is they go back into their hiding space within you because their life was on the line. They go back into their hiding space and they cause an ongoing, more subtle suffering for you on an ongoing basis. And it's been there for so long, these emotional issues, that you think it's you. It is actually part of you on some level. They cause us to act out sometimes and different things like this, but it's not the crazy chaos, it's a more subtle ongoing suffering, which I was talking about. Would you rather spend your 24 hours in a day in like what's the difference? Nobody sees this. I like intensity if that's what's needed in order to better myself on some level. Or would you rather be in this stagnant suffering that's more subtle on an ongoing basis type deal? So what happens is, to get rid of the emotional issues, they need to surface, and then once they surface, that's when we have the ability to get rid of them. And the way to get them to surface is to stop the habits that are not well, causing the chaos in your being. And then that gets them to surface, because that's the first step of getting rid of these emotional issues. And once they surface, enduring and not partaking in the habits. And when you endure, then that's like focus. That's when you can release these emotional energies. So for example, I've given this example before. When a person does yoga, like a yogi or something, they go into a stretch. A person might go into a stretch, or anybody when they go into a stretch, and if they go a little bit deeper than they're usually normally used to, all of a sudden there's a stuck emotional energy. And this stuck emotional energy is really uncomfortable. And what most people do is they'll come out of the stretch. They don't want to deal with that. But the yogi and other people who want to like move forward is what they'll go into that stretch, maybe even go a little bit deeper, and then they will endure that energy, that emotional stuck energy, and it starts to surface. And then the chaos starts to happen. And this chaos gets so extreme and intense to where it's extremely painful. And if the person endures through it, they have a great chance, as long as they don't come out of the stretch and they stick with it, to release that negative energy, that negative emotional energy, to where it's gone. And it's kind of the same aspect with all of these habits that we're doing and things like that. If you look at the cigarette smoker, yeah, I'll quit next week. But then there's like a depression in there or something like that. There's something going on. I'm not saying everybody, I'm just saying this as an example. We've all seen someone who does that. That's that emotional stuff. And if they stop the cigarette smoking, all of a sudden, wow, they're gonna have to like sit there. This thing is gonna surface, crazy chaos. And they don't want the chaos, so what they'll do is they'll take this, and then it just goes right back in its hiding space. But if you endure through it, maybe you do have to smoke the cigarette, but then you start right back up again. Maybe you have to go slower. Whatever it is, this is kind of like the process here. So persevering is just enduring and learning to enjoy the excess energy that comes as a result of not indulging. So persevering is enjoying the excess energy, more spiritual energy, excess energy that comes as a result of not indulging. And again, this goes way beyond food, cigarettes, and coffee, but also include things like porn, ego, codependency, insecurity, playing video games when you know there should be something else you should be doing, and more. And if you stop indulging in these things, you will be in the midst of that chaos. All right. So if you can get rid of this stuck emotional energy, then you're going to start breathing deeper. You're going to be more clearer in the head. You're going to feel better. You're going to have more focus, more energy, more zest for life. It's like completely worth it. And most of all is the peace. Peace. Okay. And that is better than any worldly treasure you can possibly imagine. I'm just seeing if there's anything more here that I have to... Okay, here we go. So what happens is when we succeed in removing this type of emotional energy, it feels so good when you feel that release and you become so grateful. You realize that something big just happened. All of a sudden, you can breathe deeper. You feel better. You have more peace. But what happens after that is feeling good becomes monotonous. And since feeling good becomes monotonous, it becomes your everyday norm. And then you just think, there's always something more we could do to feel better and better and better. So this becomes your everyday norm. And what some of us tend to do is we sabotage ourselves. We might get bored. We're not going through the emotional suffering anymore, but we might get bored or something crazy like this to where we'll partake in some of these older habits that we used to do. And then what you're pretty much doing is you're asking for the suffering to come back because you're bored. And our consciousness is so fragile that it's easy to forget, because you'll end up right back in your old patterns with that stuck emotional energy right back in there. It's so fragile, our consciousness, we won't even remember, possibly, the amount of non-suffering that we had when we got rid of this emotional energy. This is persevering. When you're in the midst of boredom, or you're taking it to another level to where there's even more intensity, persevere not to go backwards. This is the difference between willpower and persevere. So, okay. So what most people do is, instead of perseverance, most people choose instant gratification. This is where you forego short-term suffering in order to feel good at that moment in time, but in the long term, you know it's not really going to help you with your long-term suffering, and you're not going to attain your goals and stuff like this. So what most people do is they go for instant gratification. And as we were talking about earlier, most humans on the planet aren't willing to control what they put in their mouth because they don't want to go through that suffering. And then on top of that, everybody wants instant gratification. A person might right now drink coffee to get stimulated right now and to feel really good at this moment in time and have energy. But then the withdrawal aspect of it, on the come down, the natural source of energy that we all have, where it just emanates out of mere existence, is clouded by the down effects of the stimulation. The natural energy is still there, but you're just like, there's like a cloud of, or when a person does a street drug, a person might get high to feel really good, to be laughing and smiling, but then the come down, they're in depression. It's like the fogginess in regards to the street drug. And it's the same with refined sugar, processed starches, Twinkies, and all these other harmful foods. You feel good, you get a little sugar spike, and then boom. So what we're pretty much saying here, there's a natural source of energy that just emanates out of mere existence. And when we do things like this, it kind of does it. So instant gratification, me personally, I go through all sorts of suffering on an ongoing. Instagram's about to go off in a minute and a half, and then I'll put it back on. I personally put myself through all sorts of suffering. Some people think I like pain and suffering, but all the pain and suffering I do now gives me more peace and feeling good throughout my life and in the long run. For example, going on a raw food diet, it took me a decade to balance out on that. Now it's like effortless to me. It's like nothing. I do raw foods like it's out of control. It's like it's easy. There's like no effort there. It's effortless. I had to go through a lot of pain and suffering in order to get here. I'm heavily into yoga right now. Very heavily into yoga. I put myself into poses to where I suffer like crazy. And then I sit there, but it feels like, I feel like my cartilage and my muscles is like being ripped open to where I can breathe deeper and feel better. Oh, that was cool. I had my hand here and then like a heart, someone was throwing hearts and it went, anyway. And throughout the day, sometimes it feels like my body isn't even here. There's like no tension or anything like that from all of these crazy poses that I suffer through, to where I'm just like, whoa, I just feel really good in my body. So that's the difference between instant gratification and causing suffering. For example, I've been drinking this beet juice, which has been a game changer for me. I just have to restart the... No. Live. Just putting Instagram back up, you can only do an hour. Okay. So I was drinking the beet juice, which cleanses the liver, gave me crazy amounts of gas. I won't go into the symptoms that I had. But I started breathing deeper. I feel better, feel more clear, because I went through the suffering of cleansing my liver and other organs from drinking beet juice, which is extremely cleansing. I'm still drinking it, actually. It's like becoming less, still a pain in my butt, but it's becoming less intense. Yeah, so I'm always doing things. I kind of do these suffering things. So also, whenever I'm like, I get an injury or I hurt myself, I don't go into woe is me, this is going to be my lifelong injury or anything like this. I will literally massage it. I will go into the pain. I have this injury from when I used to lift 300 pounds and I did other things stupid. I will literally stretch it to the point of where I'm in like a lot of suffering. I'll go into the emotional and spiritual pain of it. I will do everything in my power I can to heal that. I go into suffering now to have peace on all levels as much as possible in the future. So it's one thing to have willpower and to do things in like 2-week bursts than doing things with perseverance on an ongoing basis. For example, a person might do something like really extreme, like do a juice fast for 2 weeks and do crazy amounts of colonics to get it reset. And yes, that's very powerful. It can actually do something beneficial for you. But then they go right back to what they used to eat. But if a person were to not do something as extreme, but simply eliminate refined sugars and white concentrated starches from their diets on an ongoing basis for the rest of their lives, they're going to get a million times fold greater results than this person that did the short bursts. Perseverance with willpower is where it's at. So there have been many, we've been talking, we get people's sparks going through logic and understanding of all these things, and people get excited to jump on board to this type of thing. But this time, let's use our willpower and persevere at the same time. So the first half of this hangout, we talked about this new nutritional stuff on an atom molecular level. If you missed the beginning of this, this is what you might want to rewatch this hangout, because we're going to be talking about this next week. This is going to be my theme next week. I've come across some crazy research. So let's just see if we got any questions. Oh, I think we're good actually. Let's look on here. Good thing I have topics. Maybe people aren't asking questions because I don't really. The problem I have with most dietary plans is that they are not specific. How precisely do you do a raw food diet? You got to just do it. Like, it's almost like you're saying the reason why I can't eat healthy is because the dietary plans aren't precise. You got to make up your own. There's plenty of information out there. Anyway, this has been a very fun hangout. Thank you for tuning in. Every Tuesday night we do this. This is Mount Monarch. Next week is going to be big. Themed week. Join our newsletter at therawfoodworld.com. Come to one of our raw food retreats, therawfoodretreat.com. All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in. Mwah.